Hello and welcome to another edition of E-Expressions. We have Mr. Daara Patel, who's the Secretary General of the IDMA, the Indian Drug Manufacturers Association. And we have Mr. Chawla, the Editorial Director of the New Indian Express, and I'm your host, Kaveri Bamzai. As Mr. Chawla first said, the pharma industry is the only hope we have, really. So that's, I think, the best way to begin the conversation today, Mr. Patel. It truly is one of the few bright spots in the Indian economy, isn't it?
Yes.
We are the world's leader in generic drug manufacturers, but what will it take for us to really become the leaders in the patented market?
Well, it has taken us almost more than 40 years to come to the position that we are today. So it will certainly take us some more time, but certainly we are going in the right direction. What we used to do, because of the facility we had till 2005 of process patent, we could do re-engineering and make products, compete in the market. And that's why today we are the third largest manufacturers of formulations in the world. And our value, we are almost 12th or 13th because of our very competitive prices.
Right.
So we are on the right track. And once we understand that generics is not the only thing to live with, because generics business is low value, high volume. Now, if you want to increase the value, then you need to shift from the value chain cost arbitrage that we have today to intellectual arbitrage. We need to spend more money on R&D, more time on R&D. We need to have more thorough interaction with between the industry, academia. And that's how, and then government support also on various taxes and benefits on R&D. Because if you see, we had earlier a 200% special tax benefit on R&D spend, which was reduced to 150, and today it is 100. Now, if you want us to do R&D, innovation, spend money, and come up in the value chain by having more and more patent products, then we need the support from the government. So I think, I'm sure with a little bit of support and encouragement, we will not be very far from being high in patented products also.
Right. Mr. Patel, but the world, of course, doesn't like the fact that we do supply cheaper drugs and at very, very competitive prices. So we do come up against a lot of issues globally. How do we resolve those?
I don't think we need to resolve that. It's a good thing that our prices are very competitive. That's why we are what we are today.
Right.
We supply to more than 200 countries in the world today. So you can imagine everybody is looking at India. We are the pharmacy for the world. So we are very proud of the fact that our prices are very competitive. And see, what happens is we were chiefly catering to our own people.
Right.
Some decades ago. And you know that in India, we don't have the very affluent people and we need to supply to the masses. So price is a very important concern. But now as we have come along and we want to move out to patented products and increase our value worldwide, then there will be some price increase in our products, because we'll spend for R&D, we'll spend a lot of time, we'll spend time to get ready-made people in our pharma. Unfortunately, what is happening is that pharma is not the first choice of employment for so many people. It's always the second choice.
That's very strange, isn't
Yes.
it? Why has it not been able to attract talent as much as it should?
See, traditionally, they feel that IT and the others
are more glamorous.
Glamorous, they pay well and all that. So, I mean, it's not that pharma industry doesn't pay well, but certainly today we are still the second option. And that will all change once we change our business practices and once we change to going for patented products and compete in the international arena, I would say, because today it's not just a market.
Yeah.
The best companies and the best countries will only survive.
Right.
So a lot of...
that's where we come up against some issues, when it comes to global approvals, FDA approvals, for instance. They're tough. They're tougher.
And also, I'll be happy to inform you that IDMA has spearheaded the movement of harmonization between pharmacopoeias.
Okay.
Now, today, what happens is, I don't want to name the countries, but the countries who are at par with India or maybe even below, they have their own pharmacopoeia and they don't approve products which are approved in India.
Right.
In fact, some of them don't even approve if you have a WHO GMP.
Hmm.
So we want somehow that our IP, our Indian pharmacopoeia, is at par with the others.
Right.
We're not saying about the highly regulated markets, but at least the ones which are at par with us, they must straight away give approval to Indian products.
Right.
Mr. Patel, you have seen recent controversy about our vaccine.
Yeah.
England and everybody, the co-vaccine is not being recognized even now. So we have because they're jealous of us that we were able to create a vaccine of our own.
Yes.
But it's fear of time. How do you handle these kind of situations as you go forward, as you rightly pointed out, that we are the pharmacy of the world, we are a global pharmacy. And they're being threatened by us because when this kind of pandemic broke out, India was the only country which developed 2 vaccines, not only 1, 2 the vaccine. And everybody trying to put a spoke on it because they don't want to develop it. How do you handle it even after 6-8 months? Co-vaccine people can't travel, even Covishield, you see UK, the way they are behaving. So how do you handle these kinds of, it is some kind of mafia operating against Indian drug manufacturers?
I think that's a very good question. We are all concerned about it. But according to me, this has nothing to do with the efficacy of our vaccines. This is more of a perception they have or of a political nature. I don't think it has anything to do, because even before the vaccine on this COVID-related vaccines we came up with, let's not forget that as every third tablet consumed in the world is made in India, every third child who is vaccinated in the world is vaccinated by a vaccine made in India.
Wow.
So how come suddenly they have a concern about our vaccine? We have vaccinated more than 30% of our population. I say absolutely. All of them have got both the vaccines. So that's a big,
right. Every child is vaccinated by a vaccine manufactured in India, but most of the vaccines don't carry the Indian name because the people manufacture here put their own brand name there and sell it abroad. Covaxin is the vaccine which is produced in India, manufactured in India, named in India. Covishield made in India, though developed in Oxford. Even that they have a problem. Covishield made by India has a problem, but Covishield made by Oxford University there in England being consumed has no problem. The differentiation between that you rightly pointed out. How do you handle? Because they are feeling threatened by us. That is the biggest challenge you guys are going to face.
Yeah, that is a challenge, but I don't think it is going to continue for long. If 200 countries are accepting our products everywhere and for every particular disease, then how come suddenly they have a concern about our vaccines? So I don't think this will go on for long. Ultimately, they will have to fall in line, and Covaxin itself will be acceptable very shortly. And so will Covishield, which is being sold throughout the world. It's just that this vaccine is made here with the same ingredients and with the same technology.
The problem is in the name. As the people say, what's in the name? It's in the name, everything there.
The name, yeah.
The Astra name was added there, then it would have been accepted by everybody. Since it has Covishield, therefore it is not being accepted. That's why I raised the question, why when you brand anything as Indian, then it becomes a problem. Earlier, there was no challenge because the bulk scale, the economy of scale, Covishield and Covaxin, the kind of vaccine we are producing, our manufacturing is much more capacity than all other put together.
Exactly. True. I think it's a wrong perception, and it's a image they have created of convenience. When it suits them, they run after Indian products. When they feel threatened, they may try these type of stunts, but this won't last long, I'm very sure.
I think your experience of 20 years at IDMA has taught you that, the world has to come round to what's right eventually.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
No choice.
But there must be a lot of backroom kind of negotiations and a lot of education and advocacy that you have to do to make countries believe that, right?
Yeah, I think that is already a process that is on. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had these type of approvals. Because you should be knowing that outside the US, it's the Indian companies who have the highest number of US FDA approved plants. So that itself speaks volumes. And it's not that simple or easy to get a US FDA approval.
I wanted to just shift the focus a bit and talk about the challenges that you feel now in the coming years. And what do you feel the pharma industry and the government need to do to work together to become the world's pharmacy, even in patented drugs?
You see, first of all, as you're aware, our Drugs and Cosmetics Act is pretty old.
Right.
And whilst amendments have taken place time and again to bring us at par with the global standards, there is a lot to be done. And we are on the right track. We are working very closely with our CDSCO and drugs controller and everybody. This will give a better image about our project, about our products outside India. And secondly, it's our pricing policies, which are quite firm because they are all patient-centric. While we make manufacturers when we keep the patient in mind, let's not forget that to compete in the global world, we need also money to plow back into innovation, into research, and give them the best. So for all that, we will need support from the government. We need to have better pricing policies. Today, our pricing policy is such that if there is a decrease in price, then the government issues a notification and expects us to immediately reduce the prices. Now, the length and breadth of India that we have, we've got more than 7 lakh chemists. So we have been trying to tell them that the price increase should only be prospective from the next batch, but it can't be retrospective. It's not that simple. So that is one issue. Secondly, as I said earlier, we need an OTC policy also, because today we don't have a policy for OTC products. And that's another good chunk of business. So we'll have to look at that very clearly, come up with a policy that, okay, these are the products which can be sold over the counter. And then, as I said, harmonization is very important so that we get quick approvals from every country.
Right.
Even our companies who have US FDA approval are not put on a fast track by other countries. Right. That is something very, very strange. And then we need ready-made people in pharma. Yeah. The curriculum has to be upgraded, has to be updated. So we get people. See, today it takes time. When you get a fresher, even with some 6 months or 1 year training, they still take at least 2, 3, 4 years to come up to that real standard, and work independently and face the challenges.
Mr. Patel, I also wanted to ask, because I think this is something that we are deeply interested in. What are the new and exciting discoveries that we should look forward to? What are the drugs and the diseases that India can actually contribute to ending or, curing?
I think drugs for cancer, we need to give a lot of thrust. And all
are we anywhere close to some kind of miracle drug, or are we looking at that?
Yeah, some of our companies are doing a very good job, and we should be able to get our own molecule.
Right.
It will take time. It takes time and money both. The multinationals, as we call them, the Indian multinationals, are trying to do their best. So even in other lifestyle medicines like diabetes and blood pressure, and we need to have more molecules, more products in these type of diseases.
Right.
And then like this, suddenly the COVID thing has happened, and some other bacteria can happen, or some other infections can happen. Right. So we need to be prepared how to come up with these type of medicine. Now there is a COVID pill on the annual. Yeah. So I don't think we should lag behind in that. We should also try and see that we come up with these type of products.
If I remember correctly, I've forgotten this. There was something going on. Dr. Talwar in AIIMS was trying to develop some vaccine for many years about TB, I think, isn't it?
TB, yeah.
Yeah. So he went to hell, or I don't know what happened. People accused him, others also, that he was not developing it properly. With what state did we finally? What happened in that? I am not up to date on that.
I am also not very
30-year-old, and now I'm 75. I've not heard.
Oh, really?
So I met Dr. Talwar at that time. So he was still developing, and lots of funds were coming to him to develop that vaccine. Because our R&D, actually raised the question. Because R&D also, there are scandals in India about R&D as well. And I just want to ask you, what is the practice in other countries? How much concession do they give to R&D, to various drug manufacturers?
You mean the other countries?
Other countries,
yeah. There are a lot of facilities they are given, tax-free. The income, the expenditure they spend on R&D is given as a tax benefit to them, and so many other things, like even the universities are given some subsidy so that they support the industry to come up with new molecules. That type of incentives should come up, which I think we are working now very hard with NIPERS and various other government bodies. And hopefully in the next 1 year or maximum 2 years, you should see a solid support coming from the government of India to see that our companies spend more on R&D.
I've heard the Prime Minister Modi speaking about R&D much often.
Yeah.
Speaking in every platform R&D, and he was complaining at one of the forums that R&D industry was not spending much money. And you are talking about concession, 100%, it was 200%. If you spend 100, you are getting benefit of 200.
200, correct.
So it means all the expenses were taken care of. Yeah. What would you like to tell us? What kind of support do you expect from the government?
So in this R&D, we've been telling them that why did you reduce from 200 to 100? In fact, it should go up so that our spend is equal to what the other multinationals abroad spend. And I'm sure now that it has come out from the Prime Minister himself, something should happen in our favor. And they will have to give us this type of a benefit. Otherwise, people will not be able to spend money on R&D. Why should they? After all, pharmaceutical is also a business where people want profits. Of course, we don't believe in profiteering, but profits are required.
Yeah, R&D is a big problem because R&D in India is a big problem for all the corporate sector.
Yeah.
Corporate sector brands which are getting R&D and paying huge royalty on that. Even the rules have been changed earlier from 5% to I don't know how much. Like Maruti is the classic example, where it started from some percentage, now it has gone up. If you see the Commerce Ministry notification, the royalty limit is going up. So basically, people who are giving you some kind of product here, they're taking the money back rather than giving you the complete R&D and you use it.
See, that perception also we are trying to remove now. People feel that in India, patents are not respected. People are wary about getting patents. But it's not the case. See, in India, we have to see what is good for our country and for our people. As I said, IDMA itself and the Indian government believe that it is patient first. Patent should be next. But we are not saying that we don't want patents to be respected. Yes, within reasonable limits, we will see that the patent person who has the patent is rewarded, but not something like a backdoor entry of continuing with the patent. And these type of things we will not allow. But yes, if there's a proper patent, it has to be respected. They have to be remunerated well, because ultimately our companies also now want to do research and get patents.
Mr. Patel, may I ask about the opportunities for Ayurvedic medicines? Do you see that as a big opportunity, since the world seems to be coming around to the idea of alternative healing, alternative medicines?
Yes, Ayurvedic is certainly going to be something people are going to look at very seriously, because we have been the pioneers in that.
Yeah.
In phyto products, Ayurvedic and all. So we are certainly trying to see that we do well, but then we don't have those type of standards for checking those plants and from the initial stage, which we are now developing. So it'll take some time for us, but yes, Ayurvedic is something which you cannot ignore or avoid, and our company, especially our members, are looking at very, very seriously.
Right.
And they are conducting trials properly. They are working with the government to see that we have proper standards to define quality and all that.
Yeah, Indian medicine, I'm trying to bring in our Ramdev because he's all about indigenous medicine and all the plants, whatever he goes into mountains, wherever he goes. But we also find that most of the foreign multinationals are also using Indian plants and Indian medicinal values into their own formulations. And we are buying them back. For example, we have to get even things like neem registered in our name. That is what the neem is used for antibiotics. So how do you think, how Baba Ramdev thinking? I'm not talking about that indigenous things are being used by multinationals and being sold to us as expensive, right? So he wants to get rid of all the multinationals so that all of you produce, manufacture locally so that no money goes out.
See, there is an exception everywhere, and I think Baba Ramdev is an exception. And we must give him that credit. He's done well for himself. So many products he keeps introducing every year. And so maybe our CEOs also need to adapt to that culture of his, develop some yogic skills, and they should see what type of products.
His R&D skills are better than yours.
Yeah. So we'll copy that also, don't worry.
Don't copy his clothes.
No, I just wanted to know, Mr. Patel, I was just wondering, what are the biggest lesson that India learned from COVID? I mean, what is the biggest thing that we can take away, the industry can take away from COVID?
Well, I don't want to go to the technical side of it, like developing vaccines and all that. But yes, if we work very closely with the government and the bureaucrats, I think we can achieve anything. What used to happen years ago was that we were both on the opposite sides. And so, we couldn't work together the way we wanted to, or the way the government wanted to. But over a couple of years now, we are finding that government understands us, we understand the government, and we have been working quite closely. But during the COVID pandemic, it was something very exceptional. Like we were all working 24 hours. So we had to work closely with the government at the center, at the state, with the police, with the bureaucrats, with the drugs controller, with AIOCD. And that close interaction saw to it that we achieve our goal. And if you recall, in the month of March, towards the end March, the production capacity utilization was hardly 20%. With this close working and making the government understand, and then running an extra mile, our companies accommodate their workers, they put them up in hotels or guest houses nearby the factories, arranged for their food, their transport. We help the suppliers supply their raw materials, packaging materials to us. And that's how we brought the production capacity from 20% to almost 80% by end June. And this is something phenomenal. Even regulator had to work hard and burn the midnight oil, and we could get the approvals very quickly. So everybody, right from the Department of Pharmaceutical, the Commerce Ministry, our regulator, our police, we all worked together. We were on the same side. And the goal post was only one. And who gives the pass and who shoots the goal was not necessary. We want the goal to be met, that people should get medicines, and people got it.
So I wish that would continue. Has it continued?
Yeah, so far it has.
Okay.
So far it has.
So
Yes.
it's not just a wartime thing. It has lasted in peace as well.
No, I think it should continue now. They've also realized.
Right.
Because I remember during
Sorry.
COVID, some of the injections which we needed, because every fifth family has lost somebody or something.
Absolutely.
And in my own family, I have lost a couple of people.
So sad.
Organizing some medicines it was like a problem till midnight. You have to go to drug controller to get this application signed for particular injection. You have to go to somebody else to get it done. Is that the same procedure even now? That all the injections will be required, life-saving injection. You have to run from pillar to post. Even a person like me could not arrange something on time, and I lost one of my relatives because of that.
Sad.
Because it was so much I couldn't get somebody on time. Maybe God wished it was to go. But because you die because of shortage of medicine in a country like India, of the world.
I understand. It was a very bad situation for some time. But let me tell you, I'm not trying to cover up the industry's shortfall also, that maybe we were not prepared for that type of a demand. But let me tell you, most of it was panic buying. So people are afraid, like you say, if you wanted a remdesivir, for example, you will tell 10 people, and 10 people will run after their 20 resources.
Right.
Ultimately, there is a shortage because you need one remdesivir or you need 5 remdesivir. You go to one person, you follow up, and you get it. Now you innocently go to 10 people, all 10 are trying, out of which only 2 are able to supply, 8 don't. So there is a panic in the market, and there is a bad name given to the industry that this product is not available. Right. So we used to tell the pharmacists, in fact, it's not only remdesivir but other products, that there is enough medicine we are going to produce. Don't encourage people to do panic buying. Say you need X amount of product for a month. People are saying, COVID, hey, we may not get it. They will buy 3 months stock. So that poor other person who wants for 1 month will not get it. So we were trying to inculcate that practice into these people. And ultimately now there is so much of product that the chemists are telling our companies, take it back. So that is also
That's the irony of India.
Question is different. I'm asking different questions. There should be procedure, SOPs in place, because what happened now, from my personal experience, there's no shortage of medicine. It's the shortage of how to get it.
Exactly.
There was no procedure in line. Who to go? Doctor at the hospital tell me, okay, I want this particular injection, like you are naming. So where to get? He says you have to get from so and so. Since I knew some people who were the manufacturer, they say I can't give you Mr. Chawla directly. You have to get the signature of so and so. So therefore, I'm saying in future, all such emergencies may arise where you have to procedure in place in advance. There's no shortage. Nobody told me I don't have. Everybody told me you have to fulfill this and go through this procedure. So that was a much more problem. And I'm saying it's as an industry, because you are the supplier of everything which is required. So supply chain should be perfect in sync with the government procedures. Because government procedures are so tight sometimes because Adi Babu wants to have a control.
No, so that is why now there are SOPs in place. You see what was happening earlier, when you want medicine, you will yourself run to the chemist. Or you will ask the hospital, where do I go? And the hospitals also innocently tell you, go to Falana stockist, he has it.
Yeah.
Now there are systems in place where the hospital is responsible and the hospital only has to get the stock and give it to the patient. With that, there are a lot of things streamlined. The prices, the availability. And after all, this was a one-off incident that happened in India. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. And we are much better now prepared than what we were at that time. So I'm sure we will not see those days again.
I hope not. Mr. Patel, the other point that you mentioned earlier, that, it doesn't attract enough talent. What is the kind of support that you need for pharma to attract the right kind of talent? And is there a particular number that you're short of in terms of trained manpower?
No, not exactly to that extent, but like if you say, if you see an IIT graduate or some such people, they may want to go to another industry and not to pharma. But now we have started working closely with these institutes. Our people go and give presentations, and they have also realized what is the pharma industry now, with the Indian multinationals becoming very famous and sought after. So things are improving. But we have to work closely with the academia, with the institutes, and we have to see to it that they also improve their curriculum and be prepared. And things will improve now because pharma industry is also gaining popularity, good, bad, and otherwise also, So people
what is the kind of curriculum change that you'd like to see? At what level?
Well, everywhere, starting from the MRs, because now digitization is taking place.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see to it that people are skilled that way, because doctors don't want to see the patients, doctors don't want to see the MRs to the extent they were seeing.
Yeah.
So how do you develop that skill?
Right.
That is important. Quality control, quality excellence. How do you ensure that the product that you supply to a company is not a question? And very few checks are done and it is issued for production. Then R&D. There are so many new things that are happening in the industry. So we need these students to be trained that way.
Two other issues which I want to flag. One is about adulteration of certain medicines, which are very popular. You never know who's selling what. The chemists who are there, the pharmacists, they are supposed to get some training, education. But look at the number of chemist shops floating around in every city and every mahalla. Is there some kind of a mechanism where you can check the quality of the chemist and the adulteration of certain popular and which are required all the time? Because many drugs are adulterated. That's the impression people have got it. You never know how to check whether I'm getting a genuine medicine or an adulterated.
So you see, there are two things. One is I'll talk to you about the pharmacies that you've been talking about. So fortunately, you must have heard that in Maharashtra, they have cancelled the license of almost 200 chemists recently because they didn't have a dedicated pharmacist in their premises. 3-4 shops are catered to by just one qualified pharmacist. So all that is happening now. People are realizing, government is realizing. And as far as adulterated products are concerned, I think it's a big halla that is made, Prabhu. I don't think, because see, if there is a company which wants to survive and which wants to do well, they will certainly not indulge into it.
We don't talk about the manufacturers themselves. There must be down the line some people.
It's only the fly-by-night type of people who do it and then they vamoose from the scene. So that is where maybe the regulator and the police and the law enforcers have to be more vigilant. But I can assure you that the adulterated products and the spurious products in India are very minuscule compared to, we have 50,000 formulations. We have 3,000 to 4,000 registered manufacturers. We have 10,000 manufacturing units. Despite that, we are doing a wonderful job. India is a hub for adulterated products or nothing of that sort. Nothing of that sort. Because our people make medicines which their own family also consumes. They are not saying कि हमारे परिवार के लिए अलग है और public के लिए अलग है. So they can't afford to take such chances. But yes, there are bad sheep everywhere.
I would check one thing. There is the controversy about the kind of price the hospital charge from the patient about a particular medicine. It has become a big issue in Delhi during the COVID particularly.
Yes.
Medicine is used to cost 4 rupees, they were charging 1400 rupees. So there are bills around that. Is there some kind of a mechanism under which hospitals have some cap on what they can sell? What is the profit margin they can have on the medicine? Because it's a common bill. When you look at the bill, it is the medicine cost which is overcharged by most of them.
See, the government also should realize that they need to increase the health spend. But today, that's very minuscule, hardly 1.5%
of the GDP.
Yeah. So if that happens,
I have asked a question: whether a hospital can charge a medicine which it has bought for 4 rupees and send it at 1400 rupees?
That they cannot do, of course.
And that is what I'm complaining that because most of the hospitals in Delhi are all the metropolitan. If you look at the bill, cost of various medicines is quite inflated.
Yeah.
And therefore, medicine blame the hospital sometimes, blame somebody else. And there could be some mechanism in which you want to charge, okay, charge according to what is profit.
You see, hospitals are given very competitive rates because they buy in bulk. That is why they get it. And we also consider that because some hospitals treat patients at very less cost. Some patients are even totally free of cost.
Right.
So that is the reason the government has to be strict with the hospitals. That if you've got it at this price, then you better give it to the patient at that price. Now, industry cannot take care of that.
I wanted to ask you, having been in the industry for so long, what's your dream really for the Made in India label? How would you like to see the Made in India label in this sector? Say in the next 2-3 years, how would you like to see it being viewed?
If it is medicines, it should be made in India. That's what the world should think about.
Right.
And when they buy a product from India, they have to be satisfied. They have to be convinced that, yes, I've got the right medicine and I'm going to be treated well. It's going to be working on me. That's our dream.
Right.
And we also...
Why can't you have a brand like Pfizer all over the world? Like they have got, you have the international brand in medicine. But we have so much for the world, but we don't have Indian brand selling in medicine shops and pharmacies all over the world. Which is
our Indian companies also have that reputation. Otherwise, how do you think we have some good Indian companies doing very well abroad? They have their own offices, they have factories there. Our Indian companies are acquiring multinationals. So we are on the right track.
Brand like Pfizer, any name, can you give me a parallel name which is all over the world equate? This medicine is say Tata.
If I take one name, then the other company may not like it. But let me tell you that we have at least a dozen companies who have got that reputation which Pfizer or Glaxo has. And after all, these companies have been there for decades. I mean, I am a multinational man. I have worked more than what I worked for Indian companies before I joined IDMA. So I know how they have strived and how they get support from their head office and what sort of support the Indian entrepreneur gets here. So if you see all that and if you give us some time, our dream will be fulfilled. Let me tell you that.
So Made in India will stand for reliability, dependability.
Absolutely. Reliability, pricing, timely delivery.
Right.
All that confidence will come because we are working in that direction now, closely with the government, the associations. Earlier, I'll tell you, IDMA, OPPI, we weren't working very closely. Only if there is an issue, we used to come together. Now we work very regularly and it's like an open book. So the day is not very far when people will say that, okay, you want medicine, buy from India.
Great. Wonderful. We look forward to that day. Thank you, Mr. Chawla. Thank you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you, Kaveri. It was a pleasure.
Eye-opening to listen to you and all the very best.
Prabhu, thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure to have
It took me 20 years in IDMA to be interviewed by you.
No, thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.